All right. And there's a few more folks joining us. Welcome to everyone that's just joining us. I'm just doing some quick introductions to our guest speaker, Ken. And yeah, so Ken has got a presentation put together and he will open it up for question and answers. But if you have questions as Ken is speaking, is it okay if they ask questions as you're going along?
Yes, as long as I reserve the right to go. I'm going to get to that in just a second, or
Okay.
maybe that's a better one handled after everything. So yeah,
Okay,
yes,
great.
it's fine to do that.
Okay, awesome. Well, Ken, thank you so much, and I'll let you take the floor.
Awesome. Well, folks, thank you so much for hosting us. On behalf of Secretary Hargett, my boss, thank you. We do this around the state on a regular basis. I probably have both an in-person and Zoom meeting like this maybe 5 or 6 times a year. That's like during COVID. Before that, we often did it even more than that. And this is the first time with you guys. We're very excited to be invited and to be here. I'm also excited to be with a bunch of creative folks. I see Calvin there as the Chattanooga Writers Guild. If I have any creativity, it is in that field. I saw a gentleman with the ballet. You do not want to see me dance, even not doing that. And Joy with the clay arts. I love people who can do that sort of thing. Once again, I would put it on the wheel, step on the thing, and it would end up on the wall, flipped off to the side. I can't do it, but I am so enamored of those of you who can and do. One thing Miriam didn't tell you is my job title. I'm a division investigator for the Division of Business and Charitable Organizations. I've been doing it about 8 years. And please don't be spooked by the title. I mean, our mission from Secretary Hargett is to further, to promote, to encourage, and make easier charitable and philanthropic behavior. As such, we do things like this, and we're out and around in the community. We do drop-in visits for a variety of reasons, but we're much more about finding you doing something right or helping you do the right thing than we are coming afterwards with the stick. That does happen sometimes. Unfortunately, there are people who do bad things in the charitable market and market sector. And when we find them, we stop them because those people do bad things. It hurts everyone. Someone who's working with children or pets or whatever, if there's a blemish, if you will, on the nonprofit market sector, it affects everyone, both the creative arts and everyone across that. So with that having been said, let me just jump right in. There's a couple of different things that I'll be talking about this morning. I'll be talking about the needs that you have to interact with our division. I will be talking about then one way of raising money in particular, and that is using a gaming event, charitable gaming. And then, as Miriam said, I'll open up for questions and answers after that. And one of the things I don't have on my thing is a clock here. I guess I'll do this and leave it there. That way I can tell how much time has passed. So jumping right into the responsibilities that you guys have as organizations to this division under state law. The Tennessee Charitable Solicitations Act is the portion of state law that we operate under. It is it has 2 parts to it. There's a registration component to it, and there's a solicitation component to it. Most of you are going to be familiar with the registration component. If you are a nonprofit organization and you are soliciting the public either in or from Tennessee, you are required to register with this division annually. That registration is due every year. No later than the end of the 6th month following the close of your fiscal year. Most of you probably have a calendar year fiscal year, so January 1st through December 31st, which means that your registration is due no later than June 30th every year. So your fiscal year closes on 12/31. You have 6 months to put all the paperwork together and get it to us. If you can get it done on January 1st, great. If you need until June 29th, that's great as well. We do have extensions if you need them, but if you allow it to expire, then there are late fees that pop up after that that can be assessed and will be assessed against you for that. We don't get anything special or anything really extraordinary during the registration. It's all pretty much public knowledge, who you are, where you are. We get a copy of your 990 if you're an exempt organization and you file with the state, with the IRS rather. We get a copy of your board of directors. We get a copy of your mission. We'll get a copy of your charter. Again, nothing proprietary and so on. Much of that information is then made public as well. We maintain a database here, and that is public facing. So any person can come to our website and look for your organization and find it. And then they would see not only what you've sent us this year, but if you've been with us for 10 years, they can actually go back and see all of that stuff. Again, registration is required by state law. And for most people, that is the extent of what you will, the interaction that you'll have with this division. You'll register every year. We'll send you a letter that says you're registered, and then we'll see you again in a year. There is, however, a solicitation component to the statute as well. And that's where more of the problems, the serious problems come in. You can get a call from us if your registration expires. We will let you know. We'll send you a letter. If you don't respond to that, we'll reach out to you, and we may stop by and knock on your door one day, kind of going like, hey, you expired a year ago. We hadn't heard from you. Are you still around? What are you doing? And then we'll either assist you in closing down, or we will assist you in renewing your registration. But the solicitation component of the statute is where, if there's going to be a serious problem, it's generally going to be there. And so I tend to spend a little bit more time on those portions of the statute. So the easiest way to let you know what it is you need to do there is kind of the golden rule. Treat others as an organization, as an entity, the way that you would want to be treated. Say, do what you say you're going to do, tell people what it is that you're about, and then do that. Most of the times when folks run into trouble with the solicitation portion, they inadvertently or sometimes intentionally will make a statement that is untrue or misleading or perhaps deceptive in terms of their solicitation. So common things that we see that would be problematic would be you have a fundraiser that you're doing online, and you say 100% of the monies raised in this fundraiser will go to help the Chattanooga Writers Guild and promote creative writing in the city of Chattanooga. Well, if you have a 5% fee to run that online fundraiser, then 100% of the money isn't going to the Writers Guild. 95% of the money is going to the Writers Guild. And depending, you could have a donor out there who didn't understand that or thought you had it taken care of and so on, and might take exception, especially if they gave you a larger gift. That 5% of it went somewhere else. The best way around that is to say something like, 100% of net proceeds, or just, net gifts to the organization will go to the Chattanooga Writers Guild and so on. If you raise money for a very specific event, so if you're raising money to, say, buy a new van, or if you're raising money to hire a new person or expand office space, anything that you put a specific goal or objective on, if you don't segregate those funds and keep them for that, they're called restricted funds at that point in time. If you spend those funds for anything else, potentially you're going to get in trouble. If you ask for money to expand your office space, but you end up, paying for a weekend retreat for the board to have its annual board meeting somewhere, that is not what you told your donors that you were going to do. There's nothing wrong with asking for money to have that retreat. You just can't do it with money that you said you were going to do something else with. And the other kind of thing that you might see in something like that is where you put a dollar value on something that's restricted like that. So you say we need money to buy a van to do whatever it is, deliver supplies or haul people around, to do whatever. And the van is $15,000. And so you put a fundraiser out there for $15,000. Well, if you raise, $13,500 or $14,000 and you have $1,000 or $1,500 in your general budget, you can go ahead and make up the difference. And that's great. But what happens if you say you're going to raise $15,000, but you actually raise 17,500 for the van? What has to happen with that other $2,500? It's a nice problem to have, but you've now committed that this is money coming into whatever. You could potentially buy a little more expensive van, but you said you were going to spend 15,000, not 17,500. And so again, the easiest way around that is to say, we're going to buy a van for $15,000. Any additional funds that come in over and above that will go into the general budget. And that way, everyone knows exactly what's going to happen to the money that's coming in. Your donors are informed, and really donor intent and donor information is among the biggest criteria that we use here. What is it that someone who heard your solicitation going to think about what's happening with their money on any given day? And be very, very mindful of that. Beyond that, you are not limited in any way. You can do fundraisers, you can do online fundraisers, you can do bake sales, you can sell merchandise on your website. You can use telemarketers, you can call yourself, you can knock on doors, you can do direct mail, you can do email marketing, you can ask on all of your social media pages, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all of that. If you're properly registered with us, that whole thing is kind of open to you. The one thing that I will mention, and I'll mention in passing because we don't really have go into this as a huge event, is online fundraising with things like GoFundMe and things like that. The one thing you never want to do is allow anyone else that is not intimately and authoritatively connected with your organization to speak for you. And so sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes I'm just going to go like, wow, I really love what Miriam does. And so I'm going to get on my Facebook page and go, hey, everybody, I've got to GoFundMe, send me money. And I'm going to send it to my good friend Miriam because she does great work and whatever. People do that all the time. That is beyond problematic. I could actually say things about what Miriam does or what Calvin does at the Chattanooga Writers Guild that Calvin has no intention of doing. It's not part of his mission. He never said that he would do that. But here I am speaking on his behalf, and donors are giving money to me to give to Calvin based on what I've said. And that's just one of a number of different problems. You always want to make sure that if there's an effort happening in your name, you know what's being said about you, you have authorized the use of your name and so on. It is actually a violation of our law for me to use your name, your organization's name, your logo, any of those things, unless I've got a contract in writing that says I can do so. So you always want to make sure that you're the only one doing that. Another issue that you have there is you guys are 501c3s. If that money comes to me at GoFundMe and I pass that on to you, who is actually donating you the money? Who actually is the donor donating to? Right? If I don't pass on your donor's name and ID and contact information, how do you get in touch with them to send the receipt? I'm not a 501c3. I'm just some guy on GoFundMe that likes what you do. And so when you find those kinds of things, you really need to sort of put a damper on them or take advantage of the new features that PayPal, GoFundMe, and others are using, where you as an organization can go in, set up a fundraiser in your name, and you control all of the information that's in it. The money comes to you and not to someone else. And your followers, your supporters, your donors, whatever, can actually go to the page and connect to your campaign on their social media site and can advocate on your behalf without ever touching the money, without ever saying anything other than, hey, I really like Miriam, go here, she'll tell you about everything she does. And then you're in control, the money comes to you, all the donor things are correct and so on. That is actually expanding. We're seeing that more and more and more across the sector. I'm happy about that, because the idea that someone would speak for another organization, make commitments to sort of step into the donation process with a role that they don't have, to receive money and then pass it on, that is just full of potential for very bad things to happen. Don't ever do that intentionally. Don't ever allow that to be done to you. If anyone is speaking for you, soliciting on your behalf, you need to know who it is. You need to have a contract that outlines everything that can be said, should be said, and how that works out. And again, there are a variety of different ways that we see folks doing that. I mentioned a bunch of them with just social media and so on. But a very popular way, or at least it's becoming very popular, is to use what's known as a game of chance to raise money. And the Tennessee State Legislature has seen fit to create a carve out to the state's gambling statutes that allow certain charitable organizations in the state of Tennessee to hold a gaming event, essentially a gambling event, once a year to raise money for their organizations. We're all Tennesseans here. We're all very familiar with St. Jude Children's Hospital. St. Jude's raffles off a house every year in each of the 3 grand divisions. These are not little bitty houses. They're not tiny houses. These are $250,000, $300,000 homes. Tickets are usually $100 a piece. They move it around even within the grand division in East Tennessee. Maybe this year it's in Chattanooga, maybe next year it's in Knoxville, maybe the year after that it's in Bristol. So they do bounce it around and kind of spread the love around. And while St. Jude is an organization filled with nice and wonderful people, they don't do this because they're nice, wonderful people. They do this because they make a stupid amount of money every year raffling off houses. And so there are currently 2 legal forms of gambling in the state of Tennessee. One, of course, is the state lottery. We have nothing to do with that. And the other is this carve out that I was talking about. You can look up the Tennessee Charitable Gaming Law online, just do an internet search for that, and you can find the text of the law. And what that says in short is that there are 5 different things. It was just amended. It used to be 4. July 1st, a 5th was added. But there are 5 different things that qualified 501c3s and qualified 501c19 veterans organizations. So think VFW, American Legion, something like that. Those are the only 2 big picture groups that can do that. C3s and C19s are allowed to have a single game of chance once a year to raise money for their organization. The qualified part is important. It's just not just any old C3 can do it. You do have to meet certain qualifications. You have to have been in existence for a certain amount of time. You have to have been active in Tennessee for a certain amount of time. And there's some other things that are out there. But once you are qualified, then you can do that single game of chance that I was talking about. And the 5 things that you can do a raffle, you can do a reverse raffle, you can do a cake walk, and you can do a cake wheel. And then the final thing that was just added is brand new in 2021 is you can do bingo. Bingo has been illegal in the state of Tennessee for about 35 or 40 years. There was a big brouhaha back in the 80s that everybody just was like, nope, we're not doing bingo anymore. But there were some petitions to the legislature under this carve out to the statute, and bingo is currently something that is available to you. You apply to us. We do not actually approve or disapprove the applications. We simply assist you in putting your application together in the right form. The application period opens up on July 1st every year, and it closes on January 31st of the following year. So we are right in the middle of the application period. And you are applying for an event to be held about 6 months to a year and a half after the close of the application period. So the application period that we're in right now will close on January 31st of 2022. And right now you are applying to hold an event starting July 1st of 2022 through June 30th of 2023. And the reason for that harkens back to what I said before. We don't approve or disapprove those applications. What we do is assist you in getting them in the proper form. Then they're stored here until the application period closes on January 31st. Then we take all of those applications across the street to the legislature. They combine them and create what's called the Omnibus Gaming Bill. All of the applications are part of that, and then they vote on it, yes or no, up or down. They approve them all or don't allow any of them. I've never seen it that they've not approved it, so it's a pretty good bet that they'll all be approved. But then because the games are being authorized by a setting aside of a portion of state law and by a vote of the legislature, that action and that bill is handled just like every other bill. Our legislature meets from late January through April or May every year, and all of the bills they pass go into effect starting July 1st of that year. So when we take it over on February 2nd or 3rd, they create that bill of 22. They're voting on things that are going to happen starting July 1st of 2022, and they're only going to vote for something with the gaming bill that's going to happen in that very next fiscal year for the state. That having been said, it can be a little draconian to do it, but if you do it right, especially with some foresight and with some planning, as I mentioned in the case of St. Jude's, you can raise a fair amount of money. There are no real restrictions on the kinds of things that you can raffle off. Most people ask about firearms, and you absolutely can raffle off firearms. The only restriction there would be that the winner of the raffle must be legally able to own the firearm. So a minor couldn't buy a ticket and win a firearm. Maybe he or she could win, dinner for their family at a restaurant or something else like that, but they would not be able to have the firearm because they're not legally able to own it. The other kinds of things that are out there, so the reverse raffle is pretty, well, I was going to say pretty self-explanatory. It's not. A raffle is you have 100 tickets in there and they draw out one winner and that's the winner. They do have a reverse raffle, usually goes along with a longer event where they put the 100 tickets in and they start drawing tickets out, and the last ticket drawn is the winner, not the first ticket. So that's out there. Cake walks and cake wheels. We've all seen Wheel of Fortune where you spin the wheel. That's a cake wheel. You have different things on there that people can win. A cake walk, think musical chairs with a winner at the end of it. And again, you can do that several times across the course of an evening. So if you have an event, you can have more than one item that you raffle off that evening. You just can't have more than one evening of raffles. You can only have one event per day in any of the events that you might be doing. And I know that I've condensed it, I've covered a lot, and I'm sure there's some questions that will be coming to you here in a bit, but I do want to get to some resources that we have for you here in the division, and then we'll open it up for questions. The first one is just myself. Right. Again, my name is Ken Marrero, and Miriam has all of this. Miriam, please feel free to make my contact information. I'm going to give it out, but please feel free to make it available to anyone who wants it. Ken Marrero, last name is spelled M as in Monday, A-R-R-E-R-O. The direct line on my desk, I'm looking at my phone, which is muted right now, and which rolls to my work cell phone when I'm out traveling or doing whatever, is 615-253-4575. And you can call and that'll ring on my desk and we answer our phones here. If I'm not on the phone, if it doesn't matter if I'm doing paperwork or whatever it is I might be doing, if you call in, I'm going to stop and answer the phone then, because that's when you have time to call. We do practice that here. If for whatever reason I'm unavailable and you need an answer right away, you can call the main division line at 615-741-2555. You can ask to speak to me, or if I'm not available, you can ask your question of everyone who's here. Perhaps another investigator will be able to handle it, or someone else in the division. My email address is pretty easy. It is my name, but there's a dot in there. It's ken.marrero at tn for Tennessee.gov. I get those all day, every day. You can ask your questions that way. And then we have a couple of other things that are out there that I want to point you to. So if you go to, I've seen in the couple of emails that Miriam has sent out that have a link to our page online. So if you click on that link in those emails, it's sos.tn.gov/ I think it's charitable.organization or organizations. I don't want to try and pull it up here because I don't want to lose you guys and maybe not get back to you. But that link that Miriam sent out worked. At the very bottom of that page, you'll see a thing for resources. If you click on that, there's all kinds of things there. We have a great publication that I want to recommend. It's called What Every Board Member Should Know. It was first written in 2016 and updated in 2019. It's got a host of information. If your board members read it and come back to you and go, I'm not so sure that I want to actually stay on the board, this is a little concerning, then they actually got the right message from that document. Being a board member is an incredibly important facet to nonprofit operations. And it is not just some great thing that pads your resume that you've been very successful and now you get to sit on a board. Boards are involved, they are active. Boards actually are responsible for the activities and the actions of the organization. An executive director is an employee. A board member is the one who tells the employee what he or she is expected to do. So board members have not only a lot of authority and a lot of power, they also have a lot of responsibility. And that What Every Board Member Should Know document is something that is really good. There's an FAQ page there that you'll see. You can find all of our statutes listed there, all of our documents there. And I do want to point out, and again, Miriam, I'll actually get you this link. It's there, but it's kind of hard to find sometimes. We do a monthly newsletter, for lack of a better term, but it isn't really a newsletter because it's not about us. I actually curate this. I probably read somewhere between 75 and 125 different articles and posts and whatnot a month, and sort of distill that down into anywhere from 5 to 7 or 8 articles or items of interest that go out to the entire nonprofit community that has subscribed. Well over 1,000 subscribers. It's been going on for several years now. Feedback has been very, very good, very, very helpful with the information that's been there. And you can unsubscribe at any time. You can forward it on to some other folks. And I highly, highly, highly recommend that. It comes out once a month. At the end of the month, it'll be out this Friday. So if you grab that and subscribe, you'll actually get the first issue that's up. And once again, that's just for your information. You can unsubscribe at any time. So I know I've covered a lot, and I'm sure I haven't covered as much as you would like to have heard on something. I do see 2 things in chat that I did not click on because, again, I didn't want to go away. I didn't know what that would do to me. But I do want to open it up for questions now. And with that as kind of a basis, I'll give you guys as much time as you would like to ask questions of me. And perhaps we just maybe start with whatever's in the chat there.
That was just me putting in your information and
okay.
the websites.
Gotcha. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we'll go beyond that to questions from folks that are online. Oh, I know somebody's got a question. Maybe not.
Hello. If we do something like a silent auction, is that considered what area does that fall under, and what do we need to do to make sure it's done right?
Done right. Yeah, silent auctions or just a regular auction would be a solicitation. So you need to be registered with this division to do that, but they are not considered a game of chance. To be a game of chance, you have to have 3 different elements involved, and these are intentionally, generally, and broadly named. You have to have consideration, chance, and prize. Consideration and prize are anything of value to, it's a pay-to-play thing. It could be a can of green beans, it could be $500. On the backside, the prize could be a case of green beans and $5,000. It doesn't matter. You have to have consideration, pay to play, you have to have a prize. And then the path to win the prize after your consideration must be based in chance. So something like again, a raffle, a bingo, cakewalk, whatever, all those are randomly based. And a silent auction is not. I mean, I can walk by that page and re-up my bid and outbid you, Calvin, over and over and over again. You and I can both stand there until they close it, just, upping each other by 50 cents. There's no chance to that other than perhaps Miriam goes, enough with the silent auction. We're stopping it here. You win, Calvin, because yours was the last bid. Same thing with like a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. You could have $50 entry fee with the team winning $500. You've got consideration and prize. You just don't have chance because the basketball would be based in skill as opposed to chance. And I know there's folks out there that go, yeah, but you can't, we can't do Texas Hold'em or poker. We can't do casino nights. And, gambling is a skill that's out there. And I'm not the person you need to convince of that. I'm not going to argue that with you. Remember what I said, the gaming statute was a carve out from the gambling statutes in the state. Raffles, bingo, all of those sorts of things are all illegal. You can't just normally do those as part of your day-to-day activity in the state of Tennessee. You can in some states, you can't here. And if you do, you face potential criminal charges. And so they have carved out an exception to those gambling statutes to allow nonprofits to hold that, those games of chance on a single event once a year to do that. And so you are actually doing something that would normally be illegal, and it has to be applied for. So that properly applied for and approved game of chance is the language that I use when I'm talking to folks about it. Even if Joy for Scenic City Clay Arts could have applied for her game of chance and would have been approved had she applied, if she holds a raffle and has not applied and not been approved, that doesn't even fall under our statutes. If we become aware of that, that's actually a violation of criminal law and would be reported to like the Chattanooga or the county sheriff, maybe the TBI or the district attorney down there. Once we have that final list of approved games, that they know the normal event that would, normally this would be a crime, but these guys are in under that carve out. And so it's there. We publish that, and we have people call us all the time. Hey, so-and-so's having a raffle. Are they on the list? Yes, they are, or no, they aren't.
Ken, we had a question in the chat about finding the document you mentioned about what every board member should know. And I was looking around trying to find it, but I couldn't find it either.
Okay, so that charitable.gaming, if you go to that page, I'm going to click on it and see what happens to my screen. Can you still hear me, Miriam? Okay, so I couldn't hear you if you could hear me while I was looking. So go to that page, the charitable.gaming, and at the top you'll see a green search bar. Type in what every board member should know. and it'll say 2019 Nonprofit Guidebook. That is the resource that you're looking for.
Okay, I just found it. I'm gonna plug it into the chat.
So it's actually quite, it's rather extensive. And like I said, it was written in concert with the director of the division at the time in 2016 and the Center for Nonprofit Excellence, I believe it is, here in Tennessee, in Nashville. And then it was updated in 2019 to do that. And it's kind of a long document. It's not real short. It's not like 2 pages. If you download it from there, I think it's like a big 4-color brochure. And, you can print that off. We recommend that you circulate that far and wide, have copies of it, give copies to your board members. That's all great.
We have a question from Jennifer. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you. I was wondering, in terms of the gaming statute, you mentioned that you can apply 6 months to a year and a half in advance.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you have an annual event, can you do one application for 1 year and then the next year, since that could fall within that year and a half?
A great question. I've never been asked that, but the answer is no. The application period every year from July 1st through January 31st. So this year, 7/1/21 through 1/31/22 only applies to events being held from 7/1/22 to 6/30/23, the state's next fiscal year. The reason I mentioned the 6 to 18 months out there is that if you apply on July 1st of 2021, so if you applied on the very first day the application period opened, you could actually apply on July 1st of 21 to hold an event on June 30th of 23, 2 years later. Most people don't do that, but that possibility exists. So it's not a question of, oh, it crosses over a certain amount of time. It's just that period, if you start on July 1st, you generally, I said 6 to 18 months. I should have said 6 to 24 months. That's just the length of time that you could transpire between your application and the actual event. But if you wanted to have an event starting on July 1st of 23, you'll need to wait until July 1st of 22 to apply. So you have a 6-month window and you're applying for stuff to be done in the state's next fiscal year. And I understand how confusing that is. I still haven't figured out great language to make it less confusing, but all that to say, right now, you would be applying to hold a gaming event from July 1st of 22 to June 30th of 23. And then the next application period will be for the next year that covers those months. So did I totally confuse you, Jennifer, or did that work?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is if I'm having an event that's 6 months away, like in April right now, I would have had to apply last year.
Correct.
Okay, so if I apply now, I'd be applying for, oh, actually, I would need to wait till July to apply for April 23.
No.
No, okay.
So you can apply now because we're in the middle of an application period that will close on January 31st of 22. And those events that you're applying for then will be for the fiscal year or for the year starting July 1st of 22 and ending June 30th of 23. So if you have an April of 23 event, you would want to apply prior to January 31st of next year of 22.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question?
No, I'm sorry. Questions aren't allowed. We can't do them. Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
So is there any flexibility since life has been so unpredictable the past 2 years for events that we have decided to go through with and would like to have a gaming element that, you know, have passed the deadline to apply for? Is there any way to squeeze those in?
No, there is not. And the reason for that is the process that we go through. Remember what I said, so let's go back to the registration portion of the statute that we talked about earlier. when you send your registration renewal application or your initial application here, we look at that, we evaluate it. If we're missing something, we ask for it. And then ultimately we here approve or reject the renewal application or the initial application. If we reject it for whatever reason, it goes back to you to fix what we found. And then you send back the fix, and then we look at it again, and we just sort of rinse and repeat until you are, your application is complete. But we make the ultimate decision. With a gaming event, we do not. We still help you with the application. We still do the rinse and repeat thing to make sure your application is in shape and in good shape. However, once we go, all right, Allie's application is set, it's done, it's good, then we just set it aside. If you applied right now and it was in great shape, we would go, Allie, we got it, you're good. Talk to us in late January if there's anything else, but you're done. And we will simply hold it until that first week in February, when we take all of the properly submitted applications across the street, and the approval process is a vote by the legislature. And the legislature's vote is only for the next fiscal year. So for us to, and that's all by statute, that's all written into the law. It's the way the legislature set it up. So for you to say, oh my gosh, we didn't really do whatever, the legislature, which met from January through April or May of 21 and is now not in session and won't be back in session until late January of 22, they can't vote on it. There's no body to look at your application and say yes or no, even whether there were COVID restrictions or not. And that actually has other applications. If you have an approved event, the reason I mentioned, you're applying now for an event that could be held months or years from now, is because it's important. You're going to give the legislature a date of your event and where that event is going to be held and what type of event it's going to be. So let's say now in October of 21, you say in April of 23, I want to have a raffle here in Chattanooga at this location, and at this time. Well, the legislature is going to vote to approve that event in early February of 22. That's what they approved. You can't just go later and go, April, we really think that's not really a good time. We've been approved. We're going to change our April of 23 event back to September of 22. That's still in the right year that you would have been applying for, but you've moved that event by 6 or 7 months now. You can't do that. I think you have like 28 or 29 days on either side of your event that they allow for. Things can happen, changes can take place, but you can't just move it around anywhere. You can't just even move it to different places without it. The event was very, very specific. It was applied for on this day. It was this type of event, a raffle, a reverse raffle, whatever, and it was at this location. And those three things, that's what was approved by the legislature, and you don't have a lot of wiggle room to make changes to that for any reason after that's been done. You can not hold the event, but you can't just go, well, we're going to do something totally different. It's not the way that works. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but that's
I understand. It's okay.
Thank you, Ms. Collins.
I had a question.
Sure.
So is there some kind of reporting process after you host your event?
Are you talking about the gaming event?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so we're going to make you honorary investigator of the day because I failed to say that, and that is actually one of the most important things. That is something that we do also. There is after event reporting, how much you actually made, who the winners were, because there's tax implications, the IRS is involved, all those sorts of things. And most people, if they get in trouble with a gaming event, it's on the after event reporting, and you are agreeing to reporting all of this stuff within a specific time period after the end of your event. And if you don't do that, you can actually be fined, and the fines are like ugly fines. I want to say it's up to $50,000. That may not be right. Don't quote me on that one, because we don't have a whole lot of folks that violate that particular statute, but we do have some. Whatever it is, it could be multiple thousands of dollars in fines because you didn't turn in a report. That you don't want to do that, you know, especially since the notion of the ability to hold the event is something that's been gifted to you, if you will. I mean, it's a carve out that the legislature has made. They didn't have to do this, and they can retract it at any time if they want to. I don't see that happening, but I'm just saying it's not a done deal. You know, those events have been declared to be criminal acts outside this carve out, and that's just something that's nice for the community to have at their leisure. Nobody else can do this. If there's people raffling off stuff to put backsides in seats at a concert or whatever, and that's all against the law. Okay.
Anyone else have any other questions before I ask if just a couple more questions? No, okay. My other question, because you had mentioned, so if it's not registered, you said you have people who call you and will ask if it's registered. So
Sure.
you have like a published list online of registered gaming events?
Yep, at that same location that you put in the chat, was that
The first
thing
one?
you put in there? Yeah, that charitable gaming.
Mhm.
You can look around on that page, scroll down and see what's there, but you'll under, I think it says resources is one of the things down or at the footer. You can click on that and it will show you the list of charitable organizations. We've got it. I think it's online going back 10 years, but we have the information going back even further. And so you can look in and see everyone who has a game of chance that has been approved, whether it's been held yet or not. So it's the whole year. Since it's all approved at once, we know who they all are. We put that up there. It's made public. Anyone can look at that and see it. We still get people calling, going like, "I saw a raffle," and I just look at that page to go, "Oh, nope, they're okay." Yeah. And then we also send that, as I said, we send that list to the TBI and to all 31 district attorney generals around the state, so they know that there's an event on such and such a day that's going to be held in their jurisdiction that is not subject to criminal prosecution for a violation of the gambling statutes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just put the link in for it, and it's great because you can see the details of what the event is too.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that like if you don't report, you get fined. I'm assuming like if you haven't registered and you host a gaming event and someone happens to call, you're the one who investigates these cases. And there's no way to kind of backtrack any of that, right?
So actually, your initial premise is incorrect.
Oh.
Remember what I said. We have jurisdiction over a properly applied for and approved game of chance.
Oh, okay.
I think I picked on Allie and said if she could have applied for a game of chance but didn't, and would have been approved had she applied but wasn't approved because she didn't apply, I don't have jurisdiction there. She is now, and she holds a raffle or bingo or whatever. She is now holding an event that is not covered under the carve out. And so
okay.
That is simply now a criminal violation of gambling statutes. And the people who have jurisdiction there are the police department, sheriff's office, TBI, district attorney. It is completely and 100% removed from us, and it's law enforcement at that point in time.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Any last minute questions before we wrap up? We are getting close to the 11:30 hour. Right, it doesn't look like it. But Ken, thanks again so much for joining us today and providing this great important information, not just about gaming, but also about the board reference document. That's really a great resource. And I'm sure we'll have you back on to talk more about your other half of your office, which you said is nonprofit compliance under state
Yep.
laws. Is that what you had said?
Right, we could do that. Actually, we talked a little bit about that on the front end. That's the registration and solicitation stuff. But with the time constraints we had, and there was a lot of stuff you wanted me to cover, we just kind of squished it all together. That's why you have my contact information. Please, seriously, email, call, do whatever. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, like grandma used to say. We would much rather have you go like, I'm sorry I did this, whatever. And I go like, okay, don't ever do that again, right? Than to have somebody call in and go, hey, Jerry is doing that. And then I got to call Jerry Wofford to go, sorry, but you can't do that. Thank you all for having me. I had a great time. Wish I could have done it in person next year. They're in Chattanooga. We'll come down, do lunch. We'll all be together. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
And again, thank you so much for hosting me, and you guys have a great day.
Thank you too. And just a quick announcement. If you're looking for things to do this weekend, there's a lot going on. Arts Build will be out at the Fall Festival at the Bethlehem Center from 10 to 4 p.m. I believe. And then Kate Warren with Art 120 will be out at Cooper's Alley, and we'll be there as well for the International Festival and more. So we look forward to hopefully seeing you all there. And thank you and have a great week.
Wow.
Bye.